Pulsating Biology, and the topic we were covering was the classification. In the last video, we have discussed about the characteristics of the arthropoda and how it is linked with the insects. In this video, we will be learning some of the characteristics of the insects and how insects are said to be related to be relatives of the arthropoda. Well, the basic characteristics of the insects have been asked in your syllabus, Olevels syllabus biology. So we will be covering some of the few major characteristics. Let's say the first characteristic is the segment and another is the fuse. So the insect body has a fused segment together, and this is said to be a segmented body that is divided into the sections. Then it has the three parts. It has the head, it has the thorax, and it has the abdomen. So we will be covering each of them in detail. How the head covers most of its mouth parts, whereas thorax is the middle region and abdomen is the lower part of the body that consists of several organs and the several structures. Well, let's begin with the head. As I've already explained that how head has the mouth part, but related to the mouth part, there are also some of the other characteristics that are the compound eyes, which is similar to the arthropoda. Arthropoda also have the compound eyes for the mosaic vision, compound eyes, and the other is the mouth part, as there is required for the sucking and the chewing and the lapping purposes, and the third characteristic in the mouth is that it often have a pair appendages. Appendages are basically a characteristic of mostly insects and in the arthropoda. This is what you need to cover in the portion of a head. The next portion to be covered is the thoracic part. Thoracic is basically the middle part of the middle region of the body, and it contains a few parts. Let's say the first part, either it contains the wings or it contains the leg. It contains three pair of leg, and it also contains the wings. Either it contains one pair of the leg or the two, and it also depends upon the type of an organism, whether it is apterygoidal, that means it does not have a pair of the wings, or it is pseudogoidal, that means it has a pair of the wings. Well, we have discussed the head, we have discussed the thorax. Let's come on to the abdomen. Abdomen does not consist of many features. It only consists of the two major features, that is, either it would be containing the digestive system or it would be containing the reproductive system. So these two structures are present in the abdomen. So we have the head, we have the thorax, and we have the abdomen. In some of the insects, the condition of cephalothorax is followed. Cephalothorax means that in such organisms, the head and the thorax are fused together. We have the abdomen alone. In this condition, the insect or the organism is said to be cephalothorax. Well, it has the head, it has the thorax, and it has the abdomen. In the head portion, along with the mouth part, we have the compound eyes for the mosaic and a clear vision. Then we have a pair of the appendages also. In the thoracic part, we have three pair of the leg and the wings, and depending upon either it is apterygoidal or pterygoidal. Then we have the abdomen that consists of the digestive system and also the reproductive system. This is some of the basic characteristics of the insects, and with the help of which we will be able to understand how insects and arthropoda are said to be relatives of one another, because they have the same segments of the body, they have the same compound eyes, they have the same pairs of the leg, and they also have the same pairs of the wings and also the similar parts of the abdomen. Next thing to be discussed in 2.2 was about the classification of plants. Well, the plants are classified into the two, either in the non-flowering or the flowering plants. The non-flowering plants are known as the angiosperms, while the flowering plants are known as the gymnosperms. So non-flowering plants are divided into spore-bearing or the naked seeds. When it comes to a naked seed, they are termed as the gymnosperms, and if they are spore bearing, then they have two types of the spore bearing plants. Either they are non-roots or they have the roots. So the one which has no roots, are example is the moss, and the one which have roots, let's say the example is the fern. So moss and fern are the examples of the spore-bearing non-flowering plants. Let's come on to the flowering plants. The flowering plants are either the monocots or the dicots. By mono and di, as it is by the name very visible, that mono means one and a di means two. That means it is a one seed leaf. Mono is a one seed leaf and di is a two seed leaf. So these are the classification of a plant into a non-flowering and the flowering. Well, before we get into the further details, let's quickly discuss what is the difference between a monocot and a dicot seed. Well, we will discussing on the shape, on the number of veins, and the leaf structure. So the leaf shape of monocot is basically long and it is thin, while the leaf shape of dicot is broad. It is broader than a monocot shape since it is made up of no more number of seeds. The leaf veins in monocot are parallel, and by parallel it means they are mostly parallel and long, whereas in the dicot they are mostly in branch shaped structure. They are mostly branch and they are a network of vein. They are the network of vein. The seed leaves in the monocot is 1 and the number of seed leaf in a dicot is 2, as it is visible by the name. Di means 2 whereas the mono means 1. So since we have discussed this on the basis of the leaf shape, leaf vein and the number of seed leaf, the example of monocot is the grass and the example of dicot are the trees. By the help of an example, it will be easier for you to understand the difference between a monocot and a dicot. Before we begin another topic, I want you all to review it first from the syllabus. In syllabus, we have 2.1 and 2.2. We have almost covered the most of the syllabus, and only the 2.2 two pointers of 2.2 is left. The last 2 pointers that says state the main features of virus limited to protein and the genetic material. By genetic material, it includes DNA as well as the RNA. That means the deoxyribonucleic acid and the ribonucleic acid. So it includes both of the genetic material. Well, the other one says that understand that viruses can only replicate in the living cell. This is so true that the viruses are only able to replicate in the part of a living cell. Those living cell are not required to be a specific one. It either can be an animal cell or it can also be a plant cell. It is just required a living material in order to proceed its own life. Well, we will be beginning with the first topic first, that says the key features of a bacteria. Let's discuss some basic characteristics of a bacteria, or let's discuss the first basic characteristics of virus. So, the size of a virus is very small. It is almost very small than a bacteria. It is, let's say, smaller as 100 times smaller than a bacteria. If a virus is said, which a bacteria is said to be about 1 meter, then the viruses can be considered as 1 millimeter. So it is almost 100 times smaller than a bacteria. Now, the other characteristic is that it does not have any typical cell structure. Now, what is meant by any typical cell structure is that it has no cytoplasm, it has no cell membrane, no cytoplasm, it does not even have a cell membrane, it is have no organelle. So the question often student asks is that if it does not have a cytoplasm, even cell membrane, or even any organelle, it is not able to even proceed this life on its own. Neither it have a nutrition requirement, neither a reproductive requirement. Then so why do we study virus? So we study virus just to understand how it leads its life in another organelle or in another living cell. So the other characteristic that we have is that it is surrounded by a protein coat. Protein coat protects the virus from the other things that it does not require. So protein coat of the virus is known as the capsid, that is made up of the capsomers. Capsomers are small units that joins together in order to make up the capsid. So another point that we have is that the only life process this show is the reproduction. Reproduction is the only process or the structure that a virus plays. That's why we study the virus as the borderline of a living and non-living organisms. So this is the key. These are the key features of a virus, and this is how it leads its own life in another living cell without having a cell wall, cell membrane, cytoplasm, or any organelle either. With a covering that says a capsid, which is made up of a capsomer. This capsid is termed as a protein coat. Now, since capsomers are the small units of the protein, it only consists of a reproductive structures or reproductive organs. That's why it is able to multiply itself and produce more viruses.